Hi everyone, my name is Robin Kerber and I am the Farm and Seed to School Coordinator here at the Maine Department of Education Child Nutrition. And today I'm going to be demonstrating one of our new Harvest of the Month recipes, and it is for a wild rice salad. So I have the wild rice cooking that takes about 45 minutes. Wild rice, I just got this little half-pound bag at the grocery store, is actually in aquatic grass. It's not a grain. So it can be a little bit hard to find. You'll often see it blended like a wild rice, brown rice blend, and that's perfectly fine for this recipe. You're just gonna wanna use half a pound of a dry grain. And so wild rice is an aquatic grass. It grows in fresh water. It's native to the United States. Where I live in Bodenham, right on the Merrymeeting Bay, we have a ton of wild rice that grows and attracts ducks, which is why Merrymeeting Bay is known for their duck hunting, because the ducks like to feed on the wild rice. And so do we. It's a really good grain. It's really crunchy and nutty. It triples in size, so a small amount will make a large finished product. And so the first step to this recipe is we have some fresh local corn. And I'm going to take all of the corn kernels off. So the best way to do it is to prop up the corn cob in something. So if you're at home, you might have like a bundt cake pan, which would work really well. Oftentimes school kitchens aren't necessarily going to be making bundt cakes. So you could use, this is just the top of a food processor, the lid for a food processor. So I'm just going to support that. And the idea is that you're cutting as close to the cob as you can without cutting into it, because obviously the corn cob is gross, has no flavor, and you really just want to be getting those sweet, juicy corn kernels. And this lid is catching most of them, not all of them, but most of them. So this recipe, the version that I'm demonstrating today is our home yield, so it makes 8 servings, and it calls for 2 cups of corn kernels. So we're just going to go through. You can also use frozen corn kernels. I probably wouldn't use canned corn kernels. I find that those tend to be kind of weirdly sweet, but frozen would be totally fine too if you don't want to do this. But right now, local corn, end of August, early fall, early September, corn is really affordable locally. You can usually get many ears of corn for $1. So it's more of if you have the time to process it in your kitchens or not. So we're going to do one more here. This is a great thing too. If you have a local farm that has a surplus of fresh corn, you can do what I'm doing here and you can freeze it. You can also blanch whole cobs of corn and freeze them. So corn is one of those great local ingredients that freezes really, really well, so we can enjoy it pretty much year round if we take the time to do that. So let's see where we're at here. We are looking for, like I said, 2 cups. Now I'm just going to dump it on the cutting board, see where we're at. There's a cup. And there's 2 cups. So I think we got like a little bit less than 1 cup per corn, which is good to know. I probably could have gotten away with just doing 2 ears of corn, but that's okay. That certainly will not go to waste. And I did such a good job of not making a mess in the beginning, and now I've made a total mess, but that's okay. So the next step is to whisk together the lime juice, cumin, salt, pepper, and oil, and that's kind of making our dressing. So what we're doing now is we're cooking the rice, we're prepping our vegetables, we're getting our dressing ready, and then they're all going to come together and chill in the fridge for a little bit, and all those flavors are going to marry and be super delicious. So for the dressing, we need half of a cup of lime juice, You could also do lemon juice. I think the lime definitely does give it a unique flavor here. So we're going to do half a cup of lime, which is just about all of that. Half a cup of olive oil. Right in there. And then for our seasonings, we have 1.5 teaspoons of cumin. Half a teaspoon of black pepper. And 1 teaspoon of salt. So that is our seasoning, and then you're just going to whisk this together and set it aside. All right. And now the next thing we want to do is, this calls for 1 cup of chopped red bell pepper, but I selected a red, yellow, and an orange. I just like the different colors. Why not? Why stick to just one? So we're going to do roughly about 1/3 of a cup of each one. These are all just going to be sort of rough chopped. I always start by taking the tops off, cutting around that stem. There's not a lot of waste in a pepper, which is really great if you take the time to do it right. It's really just the stem and the seeds. And then, yeah, they're really just looking for bite size. So looking at about 1-inch pieces here. You can certainly get local sweet peppers in Maine in the summer and the fall. And this might actually even be enough, just with the tops of the peppers here. Let's see. There's 1/2 cup. Yeah, this is going to be perfect. And I love these kind of salads because you can see that I'm kind of just like, some of these measurements are a little bit more than what the recipe calls for, and it's a salad. It's not, you're not baking a cake here, it's not science, so it's really just using up what you have and feeling comfortable to kind of bend the ingredient amounts sometimes. So we've got that. And then this recipe calls for either chopped tomato or halved cherry tomatoes. So I thought it would be fun to get a variety of colorful cherry tomatoes here. So we've got some mixed colors here and then some delicious sort of funny shaped orange ones. And we just need 1 cup of those. So I wanted to just demonstrate quickly a kind of a cool technique for slicing cherry tomatoes. But what you can do is you can take, I just popped these off the top of some breadcrumb containers, but you can also take like the top of a plastic quart container or pint container. And essentially what you do, this is just to kind of stabilize them, is you load them all up. And this works because these are all about the same width. Sandwich them between the 2 lids, and then you just take your serrated knife. Generally speaking, if you're cutting a tomato, you want to use a serrated so you're not squishing it. And then you just go right between. And voila, you have a bunch of halved cherry tomatoes. So we're going to look for a cup of these. That's probably about a half of a cup. I promise that this is a faster way of doing it if you're doing a bunch of cherry tomatoes. It might seem silly, but it's not. Plus, they all come out uniform. And those are our tomatoes. Now, I'm going to take a pause. I'm going to get a bigger bowl because I'm running out of space here, kind of clean up my workstation, and get ready for the next step in the recipe. So our wild rice is still cooking, and that takes about 45 minutes. Once that's done cooking, we are going to let it cool completely because then we're going to add it to the rest of our salad ingredients. So I've got here some black beans that I have rinsed thoroughly. I'm going to add those to our vegetables. And then our recipe calls for some chopped fresh cilantro. So we already have the cumin in there and salt and pepper, but the cilantro is really going to add a little bit more flavor here. So I've got cilantro and parsley. The parsley I'm going to use a little bit later for a different recipe. But I just wanted to talk about the difference, just in case you're ever in a situation, you go into your walk-in, you go into your reach-in cooler, and you can't tell the difference. I remember parsley, pea, pointy, has a pointed top. Cilantro, curvy, C, has like a curved top. So that's just a little trick. I'm constantly reminding myself, or you could always just try it. But anyway, parsley and cilantro is one of those great herbs where there's a really high yield, meaning you can pretty much use the whole thing. The stem, there's a lot of flavor in the stem. It's not too woody. So you're just going to, I always start with just kind of a rough chop down the whole thing. And then go back through. Take those stems, give them like a finer chop. These have already been rinsed, so they're all clean and ready to eat. If you're adverse to cilantro, like a lot of people are, this is not the salad for you, or you can mix it up. You can use parsley. You could even use some fresh dill, might be really good. Don't dismiss the whole recipe because you see cilantro. Definitely get creative and swap it out for another fresh herb. Cool. So that's our fresh cilantro. Once our rice is done cooking and cooled, we're going to add it, mix it all in here, add our dressing, and that's actually going to chill in the fridge overnight. Like I said, those flavors are going to marry, come together, and it's going to be a delicious salad tomorrow. So we're going to finish assembling our wild rice salad. Our rice is done cooking. It took about 45-50 minutes. It's really fluffed up quite a bit. It's tripled in size, but it still has a pretty crunchy, chewy texture. It's never going to be really soft. So just keep that in mind as you're cooking it and testing to make sure it's done. It's never going to be as soft as like a white rice or even a brown rice. We've got our dressing here. So first I'm going to give that another little whisk. Mix that all in. That's going to absorb a little bit into the rice. Give it a stir. Smells really good already. And then here we have all of our fresh veggies. Our beans, our herbs, those beautiful cherry tomatoes. And look how awesome and colorful that is. It smells so good. It's so fresh and vibrant. I think using not only the multicolored cherry tomatoes, but the different colored sweet peppers. This is just like a beautifully colorful, healthy dish. And you also have the protein from the black beans, the grain with the rice, the veggies. There's a lot going on in here. So that is done. I'm going to cover that in some plastic, pop it in the refrigerator, let it chill overnight. The flavors are really going to come together, and it's ready to go tomorrow morning. So that is our Harvest of the Month recipe for the wild rice salad.